Paul. Um, it's a real honor to talk about Carnival because it's not something we hear. It has to do with this land that we live on and what we
get started at 5:10. And so, we have a few more minutes to make our way. We're gonna wait. There's coffee, there's water, there's cookies from Help Out Bakery, and some other goodies. Help yourself. Bring it to your tables, and we're gonna get started shortly. Mahalo nui.
Kalehua he halelehua no ia na hanoi. O gau no ia e hanoi ne ia li ane o i o na hitai. Ahiki mai no ko ahiki no me ke aloha. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha mai e. Ano ai me ke aloha no ia ka velina mai. Mahalo for first holiday is gathering. Yeah. Again, I just we're like if we can, if you all come forward as much as we can, come yeah, give space for everybody coming. Mahalo nui for joining us to help open up this evening's conversation. I'd like to introduce our dear Hoa Tita, my kailua kona. You guys know helping to facilitate for us today. Aisha.
honored to be in front of you, Waimea community. I'm going to ask the person who's supposed to advance my slides to advance the slides. Thank you, Ilihia. So here's our agenda today. Welcoming remarks, introduction of the board members of the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, background and history of the entity, an introduction to a draft tool or guiding document for which we are seeking your input, okay, and feedback. We are then going to break out and have table discussions, and then we'll have time for Q&A as well. Closing remarks, and Panina. We're supposed to bring up our mayor, Mr. Alameda, Mayor Alameda. Thank you. So this gentleman, as we know, does not need an introduction. He is a prominent leader in our community, even before he took on the role as mayor of the county of Hawaii, Mokokiawe. He is a well-regarded medical professional and has been a community leader throughout many communities and a native of Keaukaha. So we want to invite our mayor to share about his role here at the MKSOA. Mahalo.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You get double mics. So, whenever we get Paul involved, we got all kind of mic action and extras there. So thank you so much. And thank you, Lanakila, for the opening. It's awesome. So it's so privileged and an honor to be here, not just as your mayor, but as a member of the authority. And, I get to weigh in. I get to be one of 11 votes. And that means a lot to me. I hold that, that what you call kuleana in high regard. I mean, I love this aina. I love, this is our moko okeawe. This is where my ancestors reside, and so I take it to heart. But again, I'm just one of many voices, and every committee meeting we have, I learn something new about the process, about the protocols, and so I'm just a maka'ainana in the bush. So learning as we go. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to an awesome talk story tonight. Mahalo.
Kia aloha ya kako aloha. And again, we're going to invite you folks to come a little closer when you can. My name is Pomai Bertelman. I'm a kupa of Waimea, and it is really, really, really amazing to see all of you here this evening. As you can tell from the tables that you're sitting on, it is our intention and our hope as MKSOA to be able to bring us together, to be able to have, to wala'au and to kuka to have conversation. So thank you for skipping the dinner the hour at home, for making it quick to KTA or food land, for dropping off things that you had to so that you could get here. And this is what we really, really appreciate as this board, is the opportunity to come to Ilio and to have conversation with our community. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo.
Aloha kako. My name is Rich Matsuda. I'm also a resident of Waimea. Very proud and honored to live here in Waimea, originally from Oahu. But just wanted to echo what Pomai said. I know that 5 to 7 p.m. is really family time, ohana time, when you have lots of responsibilities, yet it was important enough for you to come out to be part of this conversation. And as a board, we think that our kuleana and our intention is to hear and listen to your voices and include it in the planning as we go forward. So it's just an honor that you would join us here tonight.
Aloha no kako o wau o Joshua la nakila o kaina I kapona mengwau, mai honoka'a mai au. Mahalo again everyone for joining. La nakila, born and raised honoka'a, but I've been here in Waimea, graduate of Kano o Ka'aina. And it's a great honor to continue to take that ike and that knowledge that's been instilled into us as the kama of this land, as the children of this place, and continue to holomoa and to create these spaces and these opportunities for us to have our voices, we are participating actively in the planning and the future of our homes. So nui ka mahalo for everyone for joining us this evening, and to our board members, everyone for coming out. Nui ka mahalo. Aloha.
Aloha nui. And so mahalo nui ho, one more time. I would like to just say mahalo nui to those of you who bought the keiki and who bought the babies. Mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for that. This work that we are collectively doing as a community is not about the adults. Right? We have kuleana at this time, but the kuleana goes beyond us. So mahalo, mahalo. This vahi, this aina of alohoia, alohoia, that vahi over there, makahikilua, and the va'a, or the vahi in the front of that, Kaumoloa welcomes all of you. Aloha no.
We always feel more grounded when the kupa'aia welcome us and bring us into the place. So now we're going to, as you can see, we're keeping the front half of the remarks pretty, real brief and specific, because this is your time. We're really wanting to carve out as much time for you folks to engage in dialogue. And so I'm going to be board members and staff members. Please, I apologize. Forgive me for my brevity. Okay. So the MKSOA board members are here, and they're dispersed throughout the room today. I'm going to just say their name and then their role on MKSOA, and I'm going to just ask them to either stand or to wave their hands so that they can be recognized. I also want to let you know, dear community members, is that the primary role for which MKSOA members are here is not to take all the oxygen in the room, to take all the time telling you what they're going to do. It's really just to set up the context so that community as a whole can have conversations. So they're here with the primary role to listen and learn from all of your good input and feedback. Mahalo. Okay, starting off with the chair of MKSOA is John Komeiji, business and finance chair, and overall chair. Next is Dr. Noinoi Wong Wilson. She is a House of Representatives appointment and serves as the first vice chair. Mahalo for being here, Auntie Noinoi. Next, we have a person well known to many of us. We have Rich Matsuda, representing Mauna Kea Observatories, and he serves as second vice chair. And next, we have our kukulu of our pillar. We have Mayor Kimo Alameda, who is representing County of Hawaii. We then proceed to Pomaikalani Bertelman of Waimea, of Waimea, who is also a lineal descendant. Next, we have Mr. Neil Hannes. He serves as a land management role for MKSOA, and you may have remembered this name and his maybe his perspectives as shared publicly through his involvement as a former CWORM member, Commission for Water Resource Management. We have Paul Horner, who also is serving here. He is a Senate appointment. He's not here today, but Paul Horner. We have Chancellor Bonnie Irwin of UH Hilo, non-voting member. Yes, let's recognize them. They serve. Representing DLNR, Department of Land and Natural Resources, is Ryan Kanakaole, who is also one of the deputy directors of DLNR. And yes, he is of the Kanakaole clan, Ka'u. Kalehua Krug, an educator, Dr. Kalehua Krug. And representing UH Regents, Mr. Ben Kudo. And finally, Hamakua, one of Hamakua's finest, Lanakila Mangwa. Okay, proceeding to the next slide, I'm going to now introduce our Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority staff that's present with us this evening. First off, we have Mr. John DeFries. Mr. John DeFries, where are you? Aloha, aloha, aloha. He serves as MKSOA's executive director. Next, we have Bill Stormont, who is the project director of MKSOA. And finally, thirdly, we have Lloyd Unibasami, interim administrative services officer. And then another Mokokiave native, we have Pua'ena on, executive assistant. Okay, so that makes up both the board as well as our staff. Okay, next we would like to bring on Dr. Noi Wong Wilson. And I will call you Auntie, as I always do, Auntie. And she's going to go over the MKSOA background and history, the origins of MKSOA.
Aloha kako, aloha everybody, and I want to also say aloha to our online audience. This is being live streamed, so glad everybody is here today. This is going to be a short overview, just in case some of you really don't know where we came from and when we started, so bear with me. So here's my story. So following the stand on Mauna Kea in 2015 and 2019 that most of us are very familiar with, and I would say many of us participated in, at the urging of Kia'i to change the management structure for Mauna Kea. The response from that, and of course, this is a long story in a short time, but the response from that was a resolution from the House of Representatives in 2021, which called for a Mauna Kea working group to be created to investigate just that question: how should Mauna Kea be managed? And part of that organization that was put together included 15 representatives, kind of a cross-section of people from the community and from different parts of government. And so of the 15 members who were appointed, there are actually 4 of us who served on that Mauna Kea working group for that summer and continued to serve for Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, and that's, besides myself, Chancellor Bonnie Irwin, Lanakila Manguel, and Rich Matsuda. So the 4 of us were on the Mauna Kea working group. And so the result of the report from the Mauna Kea working group was the introduction of a bill which became Act 255, which established the Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority. Now, I would say that many of the recommendations that were created by the working group were adopted, which eventually became the Mauna Kea Authority, but not all, and we know that. So a little bit about the structure of our authority. You were introduced to all of the different people, but I want you to know that the purpose of the authority really, and I'm going to read what came out of the working group, but the purpose of this was to give voice to our community and particularly give voice to Native Hawaiians. So of the 11 members that you were introduced to that serve now on this authority, 8 of us are Native Hawaiians. It doesn't mean we all have the same thought process, but 8 of us are Hawaiians. 7 of us are from the community. There's 3 positions that are government positions, including the mayor. 1 from the Mauna Kea observatories, and Bonnie, again, is representing the University of Hawaii as the non-voting member, okay? So you can see the structure of Mauna Kea Authority is so different from any other government organization here in Hawaii. And not only is the structure different, but because of our purpose and our framework, we try to operate in a really different space in a different way. And the result of that is, for example, being here with all of you. We have a facilitator to keep us on track, but we're here to talk directly with you and to listen directly from you. So I just want to read this because, and I'm going to read it not because you guys cannot read, but because we have an online audience and they may not be able to see this. Okay, I got to turn around and read it. Sorry for my back. I need to read this. This is the purpose of the Mauna Kea Working Group, and this is important because it sets up the framework for the authority. We recognize that Native Hawaiians have an inseparable environmental kinship with Aina. Therefore, the health and integrity of Mauna Kea is paramount. Our purpose is to establish a collaborative and holistic management framework for Mauna Kea, grounded in kanawai and the laws of nature, prioritizes Native Hawaiian voices, contributes to environmental and social justice, and is sensitive to diverse perspectives. Okay. So that's it, the framework for how the authority was to be established. So when the authority was established, okay, these values and guiding principles were embedded in the working group, and they are also in the law. So this is very unusual to actually have Hawaiian values embedded in the law. As far as I know, the only other one is the Aloha Law, which was created a few decades ago, that establishes aloha and the meaning of aloha in that way. So this is really important for us. It is part of what guides us, Mauna Aloha, which is, I'm sorry. I know, sorry. We understand the reciprocal value of the Mauna and our long-term commitment to maintaining the integrity of Mauna Kea. Ofukupuna, we understand and embrace our duty and accountability to Mauna Kea, the natural environment, and to perpetuate the Hawaiian cultural values embedded in the sacred landscape of the Mauna. And Holomua Oi Kela Kela, driven by creativity and innovation, constantly challenging the status quo, our stewardship of Mauna Kea is informed based on existing knowledge and traditions, or kanawai, as well as on new and expanding knowledge. We're mindful and observant of needs, trends, and opportunities, and seek new knowledge and opportunities in ways that enhance our ability to serve as stewards without jeopardizing our foundation of Aina Aloha. Okay. Also included in the working group, and which we have included in this something new that we're introducing to you tonight called the strategic framework, are kanawai, or the laws of nature, as expressed to us by Antipua Kanakaole, who is a member of our working group. So I want to introduce, I'm sure you all know who she is, but she recorded this for us so that she can explain in her own words what that kanawai means and how we can understand it in the framework of working for the authority. So listen to Antipua.
Aloha yakakoa pau. It's a is the idea of Ho'okiki is to let things flow. And if you look around you, what are the things that flows? And one of the things that flow on our land is water. And they focus on water a lot because water is one of our main sources of life for life. And so the idea of Ho'okiki Kanawai is the idea of allowing or being aware of where water flows. And the other thing that flows is magma. And the great thing about magma and lava is once it comes up, whoosh, 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 and then it flows, it comes up out of the ground, and then it flows down to the ocean. What it does, it gives us land. And we look at it sometimes as being destructive. It is not destructive. It does what it has to do in order for us to have land. And so what the Ho'okiki Kanawai is stay out of its way. Okay, allow it to flow. And then the idea of water that flows, Mauna Kea, the aupua of Ka'ohe runs from Hamakua, and it's a small aupua, runs from Hamakua to the top of Mauna Kea and over to Mauna Loa. Ka'ohe is bamboo. And the idea of the bamboo and why it's called bamboo, it has to do with water. And between the two mountains catches the most water. And it catches the most water, and this water will go into the earth, go into a bamboo idea of water basins. And then the water will leak out from it very slowly. And so you have all of these water basins between the two mountains. And that's why we have really big rivers in the Hamakua district, because of all the water that flows down freely. So the consciousness of what flows, where it flows, why we should be conscious of it flows, because it gives us life and because it gives us a place to live. And water is what we need for life. And a lot of the water has to do with the two mountains that we live on. Yeah. That's the idea of the continuum. The other kanawai is kua'a kanawai. Kua'a is the burning back, the law of the burning back. Now, the law of the burning back has to do with the gestating of landscape, basically, gestating of landscape. You know, they initially looked at it as or compared it to an ali'i of very, very high rank. You don't approach the ali'i of very high rank because he is out of reach of everybody. It's the same thing with these land areas, the landscape that we need to hold sacred, or we need to hold like they're going to do a lot of good for us, because these are the land areas that are necessary for our existence. One is, of course, the volcano, and is one of it. The other is places that have marshes and streams and rivers and coral heads and the idea of the wet forest, because all of these things help to reproduce what's in there on the land. Coral head lets things out into the ocean, and a lot of fish go for it. Okay. And the wet forest is what gives life to more forests. Okay. And the streams do the same thing. And so this is the idea of the law of the burning back. So you look for these places and you be sure that you allow these places to maintain itself as it is. The other kanawai is kaiokia kanawai. Kaiokia kanawai is the law of natural boundaries. Now, this is a law that we as Kanakas need to be aware of. Okay. The law of natural bodies is the law where all of these things that I just talked about, the volcano, the movement of water, and all of that, where they are moving. And what it's saying is that you have to recognize the boundary. So this is saying, know the boundaries. Know your boundary as a Kanaka and know the boundaries of the land. So Kanava is all about the environment, all about the land and what the land is doing and where the land is and how the land provides for us. And therefore, our idea of being conscious of it and staying away from places that is not good for us. Okay, the last kanawai is ki ho'i ho'i kanawai. And ki ho'i ho'i kanawai is the law of regeneration. And so the law of regeneration is that it's like the first law is the law of continuum. We need to continue our own generation of Kanakas. And we need to see that the generation of the native trees continue. We need to see that the generation of the native birds continue, or the generations of the insects that live in these areas continue because they're the food for the birds. Okay. And so we have to be conscious of all of that as natives of the island. And again, these are the four laws of the land. And the law of regeneration is that we go out and there is a sense of reciprocation. And the sense of reciprocation is, if you go back to the Kumulipo, in the first two lines, I was going to say this in with the first kanawai, but I didn't. But with this particular line, the first two lines of the Kumulipo, o ke awi kahuli vela kahonua. And when you talk about that, people say, oh, that's when our earth is hot. No, it's talking about the lava. When the lava is hot, it makes our earth hot. O ke awi kahuli lole kalani. And what that does when our earth gets hot like that, and a lot of steam is coming up, it clouds the sky. It hides the sun. So what it's doing is it's returning water to the space above and turning it into clouds. And eventually, what that does is that cloud system will return the water back to us. So there's the whole idea of ki ho'i ho'i kanawai is the idea of reciprocation, that we give and the land gives back. And so be conscious of the fact that the land does give back.
Neil, before you start, I wanted to also introduce Dr. Greg Chun, who's in the room, Executive Director, Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship, with whom Act 255 establishes and mandates a co-management function during this period of transition. And so we are in direct linkage with Greg's team during this period and grateful for the support we're getting. Thanks, Neil.
Yep.
And both of them went to Kamehameha.
He didn't. But you're okay, John. Although my kako pakahia pau. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel really blessed to live in a time when Pua Kanahele is living, because I learned so much from her. And just watching her in this little clip reminds me of so many meetings we've had with her, and we ought to be paying attention, because she's amazing. It's a pleasure for me to be here tonight in this wonderful, beautiful land that's made beautiful by the amazing landscape, but also by incredible people. And so thank you to all of you who took the time to come out tonight. It's an honor for me to serve on the authority, do so with great pride. And they talked about my experience in land management, and I worked for over 4 decades for Kamehameha Schools. And I certainly have some familiarity with the lands and Aina, Pauahi, and other lands. But it also taught me a lot about organizational management too, and how an organization with the best of intentions can go awry or astray if you don't hold to your values. And so there's a number of us, and it wasn't a new idea to our authority, but it was an idea that was there and that everybody embraced. And so as we think about going about our work and being in position where we can exercise our responsibilities in 5 years or 4 years, whatever, the clock is ticking, so I think we're trying to get to 2028, we said, let's put in place a values-driven organization. And there's things you need to do about that. Number one, we don't want this to be a surprise to the world. We want to be transparent about what those values are. Secondly, we don't want the values just to live on a piece of paper. We need to be strategic about everything we do needs to align to those values. And then thirdly, we need to be consistent. And not just do it when we feel like it, not just do it when we have votes, not just doing when there's pressure or community hearings, but consistency, and that's what a values organization looks like, and that's what we're trying to and aspire to be. Now, as we start to articulate these things, we recognize that it would really be a dishonor to all those in this community who've done so much, who've offered so much about the Mauna, about these issues, if we kind of started with a blank piece of paper. And it also wouldn't be efficient since we have a clock that's ticking. We need to be ready by 2028. So we leaned heavily. The reason we shared, shared the working group report is because we leaned heavily on that. And also because we don't exist just kind of out of our own minds. We exist out of legislative intent. The legislature created us, and they gave us a mandate. So we said, let's not forget, just kind of go off on our own way, in our own direction. Let's honor and write down what that legislative intention was. Let's honor how the legislature framed a mission for us. And let's honor the core values and the guiding principles that were articulated both in the working group report and in the Act 258. Now, we're going to change it. We're going to edit it along the way already because our job is to not just stand on the shoulders of those who came before, but to add value in our generation. So you'll see some editing of that material, but we're going to start there and really do our best to honor that. The second thing is we have to, what you're going to see today and what we're going to talk about is not the full story, it's half of the story. So we're going to have on one side a strategic framework. That's like our navigational star. That's how we navigate. And then on the other side, we're going to have a regulatory framework. We have to take all the human activity and learn more about it. And that's where we're going to put out an RFP that tries to study what's going on in astronomy, what's going on in natural resource management, cultural resource management. Those are listed there, by the way, in alphabetical order, no preferences, or priorities. And secondly, that may or may not be the ending list. As we sit with our consultant who actually has to do the work in response to an RFP that John will talk about, we're going to have to, maybe we'll cluster or put these things together. We'll see in time. But what we're trying to say is we're going to look at all the activity that occurs on the Mauna, tie it back to the strategic framework so that then we'll know how to regulate. And the other part of the piece that this young man right here up in the front, this back is to you, Christopher, is helping us do, is, when you make a promise, you got to put yourself in a position to keep it. That means you have to have a system of tracking all your promises and all your goals and objectives, and that has to come before the authority and the public, to whom you're accountable, all the time, so you make sure you get the job done. So he's going to put that other piece, or he's working with us to put that other piece of how do we create milestones out of our long-term goals and track ourselves so that we know whether we're on track or not, adjust where we need to adjust, but really get the job done. So that's kind of, we want to frame that for you, and really tonight is about, we want to make sure it's clear. It could be transparent, but it could be opaque, you know? So, you know, at the same time, because it's not clear. The words aren't clear, the concepts aren't clear, and so we said, if this is going to work, we got to make sure we take it out, roll it out, and people understand. And then we benefit from your input, so we make them better. Popo? Good? Okay, John?
Thank you, Neil. So, Act 255 was signed into law July of 2022 and effectively created the authority to start July 1, 2023. That created a 5-year transition period. 5 years, 60 months. We are now in month 22. So we've got 38 more months in which to complete this assignment, and every step of the way we will be looking at ways to accelerate this transition because the work needs to pivot and pivot in a way that is reflected initially in this draft and what will become a final document. From an operating level, I'm cross-eyed. No, I'm just joking. From an operating level, it's really important that this framework be finalized and put in place in a reflection of you and members of the community, because it will serve as a lens through which all of our work activity will be driven. And by that I mean tomorrow, there will be a request for proposal that will be issued publicly for a new management plan. Act 255 requires the authority to eventually create a new master plan, a new management plan, and a new financial plan. So tomorrow is the kickoff, our second attempt at it, because we learned a lot in the first one. And at the moment, that RFP that we launch tomorrow is on a separate track. When this becomes finalized and approved by the board, after receiving your input and community-wide input, these two will merge and line up, because the management plan will not be worth much unless we are coming through this system and this framework, okay? And so that's taking place. We've identified the major planning companies in Hawaii, which was not difficult, but we also coupled that by identifying Hawaiian cultural consultants who have done and can do work at this level, at this scale. Because when you start imposing the standard of the four kanapai that Antipua just talked about, this is now transcending normal planning practices. And so that gets kicked off tomorrow, and we're pretty excited about that as well. Neil, anything else?
That's all. I guess Mahina back.
Mahina.
Mahalo.
Thank you. We started 10 minutes after, but look, I think we have 10 extra minutes for all of you for the next portion, which is, we're gonna break out in tables, okay? So I'm gonna go to the next slide, and I'm gonna just kind of orient you to the format and the overall process. Okay, so you should know, so we got the challenge here, and the task here is we collectively get to co-design and co-engineer the navigation system for MKSOA. How cool is that? You guys are all invited to co-design and co-engineer the navigation system. How? We're going to take about, I think we have like 35 minutes now. We have additional time for you folks to unpack and distill the strategic framework, and we're gonna ask 2 specific questions. So here's how we're going to process this information together. The key objective for this next section is, as I said, to unpack the strategic framework, start to delve into it, understand it, ask questions, have conversation, and then essentially we're going to distill our thoughts and then provide helpful feedback and recommendations to improve upon the draft navigation system or the draft strategic framework. Here are the roles, okay? So for each table, I'm gonna, very shortly, after I complete my instructions, I used to be the proud principal of Kanokaina Charter School, so I am definitely reaching back to that experience. I'm gonna ask those in the back if we can condense to the first two rows. The first two rows, there's 3 tables, there are 6 tables. So I want everybody, not yet, I'll let you know when, to condense to the first 2 rows. So we have a couple of rows. So in each table, I would like one person to volunteer to serve as note taker. Okay, you have some supplies at your table. You have a pad, writing pad. Thank you to Hawaii Community Foundation. I gave them free advertisement. And so you can just kind of scribble. All of you folks can scribble your thoughts and your notes, get it out there. However, when I call for your mana'o to be presented, you're going to write headline style on the large Post-it, okay? As many thoughts as you like to respond to 2 specific questions that we'll review together shortly. But headline style, you're gonna write, yeah? The note taker will kind of distill folks' ideas. There's no limit, but you're gonna write headline style response to the questions. Whether you folks decide to do it, as a table, seeking consensus, that's great. If you folks want to represent various perspectives at the table, that's fine too, okay? Then we also need a volunteer presenter, because at the end of our 35+ minutes, I'm gonna go around and we're gonna have a speed round of ho'ike. So 30 seconds I'll go around and you're just going to read your Post-it, your headline. Then it's already posted, the question's there, you're gonna post it there, okay? That way, at the end of the evening, if you want to take a look, you will be listening to one another, but if you want to take a look, take pictures of folks' input, please do so, okay? And yeah, again, and we have supplies and support at each table. I've asked the MKSOA board members and staff to disperse evenly, okay? And so, I am going to now ask if folks can move up to the first 2 rows, and I'm gonna give you your first prompt. Thank you. Let's do this. Let's see if we can do this. Va'a style, and take no more than a minute. Also, Pu'ena is passing around pens. It's very important that each member has a strategic framework handout. Please raise your hand if you need a handout. We would love for every single person to have a handout. Pu'ena is going around. Do you have manapua with that box over there too? No, just pens and strategic framework. I'm gonna talk about that. Yeah. But there's
Yeah.
oh yeah, they can respond over chat.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that over YouTube.
Yeah.
Over to YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's okay.
Hi. Hi.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.
You stole our stuff, though.
Oh, I did. I did. Okay, another 10 seconds. We'll get oriented. Okay, wonderful. We're all dispersed here. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna give you folks 4 minutes. Thank you. I'm gonna say aloha, and you're gonna repeat by saying mauna kea. Okay? I'm gonna say aloha, you respond by saying mauna kea. Aloha. 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 Mahalo. So you're going to now turn to a person next to you on your table, and I'd like you to refer to your strategic framework. And what you're going to do is you're going to look at the core values, okay? So it's turn to the core values. There are 7 core values of MKSOA. So I'd like you to turn to a person next to you, and I'd like you to share, think of an example or a story, a short story, when you have seen one of these core values applied in a personal or professional setting with positive result, with a positive result. So you're going to take a look at the core values. There's 7 of them. And I want you to choose one that really speaks to you and share a quick story or an example of when you've seen one of these core values play out in personal setting or in your professional setting. We're going to give 4 minutes for this exercise, so 2 minutes each person. Okay, enjoy. Mahalo.
If you want to respond to them and say, we're going to try and do that right now. she'll call it out too. Oh, okay. Yeah. And it'll show up on our screen, and then you can type it in. It's MKSOA.community@hawaii.gov. You see it on the screen. You tap in. There you go. And then show this.
Ooh, aloha mai. So your partner should now be speaking. I know the temptation is for one person to address the entire table. However, we don't have time for that kind of conversation. So we have 2 minutes, and you can go ahead and turn to another partner and share one core value that really speaks to you and how it's been applied in professional or personal life. Mahalo.
I'm rushing from corner, but I made it here.
She's going to announce it, but for those on the live stream, you can type it in. So if you have comments or questions, please email them in, because we might miss them if you do it in the live stream. You know what I mean? Okay. If you have any questions or comments throughout this event, you may email us at blah, blah, blah.
Another 10 seconds, and we can wrap up our conversations around core values. Okay, you'll hear my voice, and you're going to respond, Mauna Kea, aloha. We're going to say Mauna Kea, aloha. 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 Who do we aloha? Aoia. There you go. Thank you for wrapping up this portion of our conversations. I think we're getting warmed up to one another, your table partners, as well as this draft strategic framework. So those friends, those community members that have joined us online on YouTube live stream, thank you so much for your participation. We want to encourage you to participate, especially in these next 2 questions. If you can go to the next slide. And you can submit your responses to mksoa.community@hawaii.gov. That's mksoa.community@hawaii.gov. So those in the audience, first of all, I need 1 recorder per table. So raise your hand if you are the volunteer recorder per table. We got a table, recorder here, recorder here, recorder. How about that table recorder in the far table over there? The one with Auntie Patty Cook, I don't see a recorder on that table. Oh, thank you, okay, yay! We're all gold stars. We all have gold stars. We all have our designated recorder. Thank you. Here's the next question. We have 7 minutes for you to conduct an initial review of the provided strategic framework, draft strategic framework. And we'd like to ask you for your honest feedback and respond to this question. What is not understandable? What aspect, anything that's written here is not understandable, and why? Not understandable and why? So I'd like you folks to carve out the time for robust conversation, read the framework again, have discussion, and then you all have notepads on your table, so you can, rip off pieces of paper and you can scribble and jot notes to yourself as folks are discussing, okay? We have the agency to govern ourselves, so tables, decide how you want to make sure that every voice and perspective on your table is provided an opportunity to share their feedback or input. You can do it, you can write on the Post-its, or you can go right around. Okay, the 7-minute clock starts now.
So what's here? Just critique what's Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, mahalo. So you have 1 minute. So recorders, you have 1 minute to attempt to distill, or you can pass out the Post-its. Yeah? And so I want your group to write headline style. For example, maybe one group, I was kind of roaming. One example might be, I do not understand how this will be operationalized. It's not clear to me how these items will be operationalized. That is not understandable to me. So the headline would be, how will this be operationalized? That's an example, okay? So you have a minute to recorder to write down on large Post-its headlines from your group. And then we're gonna move to the next question. 1 minute, and when you hear Mauna Kea come on, then I'm gonna give you the next prompt. Okay, mahalo for your attention. Here's the next question prompt. Hui. Hui. Thank you for your attention. Ay, nanakamaka paakawaha ho'olohe kapepeo. What is missing? What is missing from the strategic framework and why? What is missing from the strategic framework? Why? Headline style. And is there any section or language in the strategic framework draft that does not belong? Is there anything that doesn't belong that's currently incorporated in the draft? Why? Okay? So you folks are doing really well. Another 7 minutes. Go get them. Go get them, go. Mahalo. do, I am gonna ask. Okay, so mahalo community members for your awesome input and feedback. I want to give you folks a minute to guide your note taker, your recorder, to write in headlines, headline style. And then what's going to happen is I am going to come around. I'm going to come around with the mic, and we're going to actually start off with this table. And each table will be given 30 seconds to report out. I'll start off with one question and then the second question. And then I have Chris here to help me take your headline post-its, okay? So a minute to coalesce your ideas into headlines on the large post-its. And then I'm gonna start off with this table. And then I'm likely to start, the second table will be this table. And each table should ask one volunteer to be the presenter, representing your table. One volunteer to represent your table. And I just want to give you folks a quick preview. So after our report out, we have open Q&A, okay? And that will conclude our evening. Thank you, everyone, for being so participatory. We really, really appreciate all of your thoughts and your manao. So one presenter per table. Again, I'm coming around, 30 seconds. And we're going to start off with this table. Who is the presenter? Thank you, Max. So the first question, you have 30 seconds to give your headline for what is not understandable and why. So I would say 15 seconds. What is not understandable and why?
Yeah. This one first? Okay. Aloha. So some of the things we came up with was ununderstandable, or should be clearer, is what is permitted activity for Native Hawaiians and who determines that? Another one, the edict of emergency cycles is a bit unclear. Hawaiian culture is not understood by all. Need to know what's done wrong in the past so we don't repeat our past. We don't want to repeat past mistakes. And monitoring public access and safety. And where's the military in the plan?
Is there any section or language?
No, I don't think we added anything. Yep, thanks.
Thank you very much. So I really appreciate how this table, you know, they made a determination. They didn't go through all of their headlines. They just chose a couple. Remember, all of their headlines will go on there. You're welcome to take pictures of everyone's contributions. And please know, if you didn't sign in, please do so, because that's how you're going to get the notes within 2 to 3 weeks of tonight's meeting. Please sign in, and you'll get regular MKSOA announcements and notices. Okay, next table. Starting off with what is not understandable, then the next 2 questions. Okay, go ahead, Kekoa.
Mahalo maina. First off, not understandable is kanawai concept, adding more context to maybe even state some behavior and operation that reflect the values of the kanawai, the laws of the kanawai. What is missing? Oh. I was getting scoldings earlier. It's like, you know, I was like, oh, I better be on my best behavior. No, so for what is missing, in the guiding principles 5, restoration include conservation. We'd like to see some conservation. It's not mentioned in the guiding principles, and other responsible land-based activities under what's missing. And is there any section or language that does not belong? We'd like to crosswalk the. I feel like I play in the kind of my auntie. No, it's my fault. So, is there any section or language that does not belong? It's missing education as well on one of them. No, you know what? We never get to that one.
Mahalo nui. Those are good headlines. Thank you. And thank you for pointing out those pukas. Okay, who's going to presenter here? Thank you. Can you please say your name as well? And if you could just say the question.
Aloha, my name is Keith. Okay, so as far as what is not understandable and why, we also, for the kanava, how to bring life to the kanava without the video, which we found would be difficult, but in just words. Who do the core values apply to? How do we take this plan and put it into action? And what is the difference between Aina Aloha versus Aloha Aina? Okay, and now for the second one, these are kind of a little bit mixed for what's missing and what should be here. We also had the guiding principle number 5. Can we include preservation and protection instead of just restoration? Proactive versus reactive. How will the dialogue with the public happen? And what takes priority of the guiding principles? Mahalo.
Mahalo nui. Okay. How's this table? You folks ready? Hikino. Thank you.
Hi, aloha, I'm Maile. So part of the first question, what is not understandable, we were looking at guiding principle number 4, and it stated that, support of astronomy. And at the very end, it said, is a policy of the state. If it was a policy of the state, how did it get to that? It needs to be more clear what the policy of the state is, I think. Yeah, okay. What is the policy of the state, how and what is it? We also wrote that the support of astronomy, according to that guiding principle, the support of astronomy should be broadened and not limited, and not limited to just astronomy, tech astronomy. Knowledge. A lot of more clarity on whose astronomy is the policy of the state protecting. And then what's missing? how do we organize the use and access so that it's equal? What's missing is possibly being able to see what the schedule and what the milestones that you folks mentioned are. Maybe have the milestones in here. And maybe have a list of when we could have periodic input and interaction with the authority. What is the what's the funding? What is the funding for the authority and the fee structure of use?
Thank you so much. Mahalo to this group. You ready? Kikino. Okay.
Okay, Ikino. So, all right, so we had, our group was, we just lost Uncle Sonny, but he gave us his mana'o. So what's not understandable? Well, first of all, what's missing? We felt what's missing was some timelines, just more, like kind of like the timelines, the time frame. We also felt like what's missing is the accountability, like which groups represent who and how this thing all play out. What's missing is more time. Like we felt like we need more time to digest this framework. And then what's missing is the younger generation. So we felt like a meeting like this would attract our age, mostly. So maybe this is something that, with youth, you got to take it to them. So kind of like they said, like maybe we take them to the schools, and we create the same protocols and format, but pick a class, a bunch of kids, whoever's interested, can come to this time frame, and you could have them share them now. So we felt that was missing. Yeah, so we could get the generational involvement right? And we also felt like we could do social media too as a way to solicit more feedback. So what's missing is a broader base of input. Yeah, thank you.
Two more Hui presentations. Thank you.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Melissa. Can everybody hear? So for not understandable, our group had a little bit of a struggle with the mission statement. We felt like maybe the word fostering didn't quite go far enough. It was a little bit too general and needed to have more weight to it. For what was missing, the biggest one is similar to what other folks have mentioned, is that what is the economic model to support the stewardship and conservation goals in this draft framework? So we felt we just didn't understand how do commercial operators fit in, rent structures, the fee schedule and so forth. That was a big one for us. Also, is there a vision statement, or is that gonna come later after these kinds of conversations? And maybe part of the mission statement might fit better into the vision, because that looks like what we want it to be, not necessarily what is driving. And then the third was just a clarification about regulatory oversight. What exactly are the laws, and which ones are we informing this framework?
Again, thank you, everyone. Final Hui, but it's been substantive feedback. Thank you very much.
Aloha, my name is Nikki. Our group, sorry, what was the first question? What was not understandable? And our group kind of said having a better understanding of the names of the core values and feeling like they were vague descriptions and not completely understandable as a whole. And the second one that was missing, we felt like was the method of education. And also including our future and next generations, as well as visitors and new residents to Hawaii. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mahalo. And thank you to this final Hui.
Well, it was a Hui of one, because it was Auntie Kanani's Hui. Yeah. And then she went to the DHHL meeting, so, all the things. First thing from Auntie Kanani, time to process the document itself. The second thing from Auntie Kanani was potentially in the next round having the management plan with it, or a reference to the management plan so that we can understand the two together. The third thing from Auntie Kanani was include language about conservation in the conservation district. She also had a question about Section 106, Mauna Kea as a National Historic Preservation. And then she's familiar with the current language that is in the management plan and why there's designation of the Mauna as a historic preservation site, but she wants that to be investigated and to have someone know about that because it's specific to astronomy. And then the last thing is she really loved the kanawai. She loved that, and she had asked, and kind of similar to what the ohana down there was talking about, is creating the imagery in the packet so we can understand it. So more than just the language, also having imagery so that we can decipher and discern. Mahalo. Mahalo, Auntie Kanani.
And thank you. One of our community members had eagle eyes and pointed out that it goes, the core values is 1 through 4, and then skips 5, and then goes to 6 to 7. So there are 6 core values, not 7. So MKSOA, stand corrected. Okay, mahalo nui. Can we just, again, appreciate one another's efforts and contributions? Again, I want to please note for those who are online, please submit your input and response to these questions at mksoa.community@hawaii.gov. Also, again, please sign in so that we can you can receive tonight's meeting notes and also get regular notifications and announcements from MKSOA. Okay, so you have small post-it notes at every table. This is your turn. So now we're going to transition to the final section of the evening, which is Q&A. So I'd like you to just take a moment, take a minute, to reflect on what questions remain. What questions remain for you? Okay? What questions remain regarding MKSOA, regarding the careship of Mauna Kea, regarding all of the strategic activities that are to be implemented? Okay, so what questions remain? And then we're going to flow right into Q&A. Okay, I'm gonna ask MKSOA members to join us here at the stage. And then when you have a question, how we're gonna do this is we are going to ask that you come up and you state your question. And then one of our members will do their best to respond to your question. So take a moment to think of all your questions that you have.
Oh, I see. Okay. One on each side.
One question. Okay, so those online, please submit your responses, your questions, your comments, your recommendations, if possible, by the end of day tomorrow. It is not a hard deadline. Like you're not required to submit your questions. However, what we're trying to do is collect all the feedback, and then we have awesome staff members from Hackbed who has been here diligently setting up logistics and taking notes. And so it'd be very helpful. So those online, please, if possible, submit your comments by end of day tomorrow, by end of the weekend as well, would do just fine. Okay, so this is your time. Q&A, I can come to you if you prefer.
Aloha, Diane Chadwick. What happens to the previous Mauna Kea Authority group and their management plans?
So, as I mentioned, when the authority became effective, July 1, 2023, it started a 60-month clock, right? So we're in month 22. And in the co-management function between our staff and our board, together with the Center for Mauna Kea Stewardship, we are obligated to operate within the existing comprehensive management plan, the existing master plan, and fundamentally their current administrative rules, okay? Until at such time, our plan is completed. Now, in the meantime, we have an agreement with them that there are certain levels of activities and projects that they can proceed, that have minor impact, that they can proceed with operationally, right? It could be erosion control, it could be damage that occurred, or a traffic accident, something like that. But when you start getting into major impacts where the earth is being altered, trenched, those kinds of projects require this board to also weigh in, okay? So we're operating within the existing planning framework that the University of Hawaii adopted until at such time our plan becomes effective. And that planning process starts tomorrow with the RFP. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
Aloha, Maile Menguel. Two-part question. Since, what has been the most impactful accomplishment since the authority was put together? And on the flip side, what has been the biggest setback?
Hi, I'm John Komeiji, the chairman of the board. I think the most impactful thing from my perspective was we've created, or the legislature created, a platform where people with different deeply held viewpoints are able to get together, talk story, and work together to move us forward. Right? Part of the challenge that we all have as a community is a divisiveness within the community. And the ability to create a platform where all of us, and we all have different viewpoints, but we're all able to talk to each other civilly, without yelling, expressing our perspectives, and yet come to some consensus about how we move forward, to me is the greatest accomplishment. The biggest challenge for us is, at this point, is dealing with some of the rules that govern the state. For example, the Sunshine Law. The Sunshine Law says, if you guys notice, we had to formally notice this meeting because I cannot talk to more than one person. Under the Sunshine Law, I cannot talk to more than one authority member at a time. So if the three of us got together in a meeting to talk about some of the issues, that would be a violation of the Sunshine Law unless I put a formal notice said that the three of us are going to meet. How do you solve problems? How do you discuss issues if you are so bound by only the two of us can talk? And I can't even then call him up the next day and talk about the same thing. That's a violation too. So the Sunshine Law, although well-intended in terms of providing transparency, is a real hindrance to us sharing different perspectives and trying to arrive at a common solution.
The question is, can you share more about the origins of the Sunshine Law?
The Sunshine Law has been around for years. The idea behind the Sunshine Law is to provide transparency in decision making, right? But at the same time, my personal position is that transparency in itself cannot be the goal. Solving problems got to be the goal. You hope to do it in the most transparent way that you can. And this is what we're trying to do with all of you tonight. This is one of the reasons why we're having community meetings. This, you may not know or not know, but this is our 4th community meeting. We held our first 3 community meetings in Hilo. And this is our first time outside of Hilo. But this is transparency. What we're doing, talking to you, having everybody express their opinion is transparency. But this transparency, this kind of transparency, helping us to solve problems as opposed to artificially saying, I cannot talk to 2 other members at the same time. So the Sunshine Law applies to all government agencies. But like I said, transparency in and of itself cannot be the goal. We have to figure out in Hawaii how we solve problems and how we move ourselves forward as a community.
Just to kind of elaborate on that too a little bit, it's also, what really is like, again, we're on a time clock, right? And so sometimes for us to have a conversation, it just kind of hinders the work when you're trying to create a brand new board. Just little history too. This is the first time there's been a brand new board created since the 1980s. And know that some of the rules are that old, and there's a lot of the process that we've been trying to figure out. Nobody's around who knows how. So they had to go back and research. So everything takes a lot of time. And for us to have a basic logistical discussion as a group, it has to be not just posted, but it has to be posted ahead of time, and then it has to wait for the next month's meeting that then has to go so that we can agree that we're going to have the conversation so that we can meet and talk about it at the next meeting. So try to get something done, it can move us, like it'll take 2 or 3 months before we can actually even have the conversation. So that's the understanding, and I know, again, the root of Sunshine Law is very important, but when it comes to actually just getting work done, that's the hindrance, is understand that process.
As a lifelong supporter of Sunshine Law, no, actually, I think there is a value to Sunshine Law that needs to be protected because everybody needs to know what's going on, right, publicly. What we're talking about here is a distinction when you're bringing 12 people together who are this diverse, who have to talk about something as intimate as the Mauna. We need time alone, too, to talk about that. And then return to the public and disclose our findings. This framework originated in a retreat setting like that. It was supposed to be the first day of a 2-day session, and the second day couldn't happen. It requires the governor to convene. And so we were able to bring it this far, and I will tell you that every headline, every suggestion tonight has a place in the planning process that is about to commence tomorrow. So thank you.
Thank you. And community, I would like your permission. Can we extend to 7:10? And those who need to leave, no problem. Is it okay if we extend to 7:10 this evening? Past time. Thank you very much. Thank you. So we will, Q&A will be extended until 7:07. 7:07. And you'll see these parking lot chart papers. If you did not have a chance to pose your question, please write your question. And these board members have already committed. They'll take a look at the questions. It will go into the meeting summary, meeting notes, and they will respond to your questions. Okay? So I'm going to go here and then to you, sir.
Thanks, everybody. Can the authority in the next management iteration address permitting in the conservation district? And if you guys cannot, can you make sure the management plan somehow gives special credence that Okay, I'm gonna make it short, but somehow the plan has to say, if community disagrees with something that got permitted, state, county cannot retaliate with force. So we either gotta change the permitting and the conservation district rules, or the management plan has to make room for peace.
And then, I'm sorry, MKSOA members, please try and make your responses succinct so that we can provide ample time for more questions from the community. Thank you.
I'm a lawyer. We cannot make anything succinct. I'll try. One of the things we've tried to get clarification on is what is our power as the authority. We believe that the intent of the legislature when it created Act 255 was to give us final authority. There are others in the community, in the legislature, that believe that the DLNR should continue to have authority over us so that we would end up being a advisory. Whatever we decide would be advisory. So we submitted a bill this session to get clarification as to whether or not we believe that we should have final authority. That bill, for whatever reason, our bill did not get a hearing. So we continue to push our position that this diverse group here should have that ability to make the final decision on conservation usage. But we have to get that clarification from the legislature.
My question is, whatever happened to OHA's 2017 lawsuit against the state of Hawaii as far as what is the decision that came about from that mismanagement of Mauna Kea?
That lawsuit just recently, the judge ruled, well, they're supposed to have gone to trial in July of this year on that 2017 lawsuit. OHA just lost their lawyer just withdrew from representing them. So just within the last week, OHA asked the judge to continue or postpone the trial. The judge has agreed to allow OHA to go forward or find a new attorney to represent them. So we're not sure when that trial date is for the 2017 lawsuit. There was also another lawsuit that OHA filed against the authority, saying the authority was unconstitutional. The judge has basically ruled that OHA does not have the right to challenge the constitutionality of us, of the authority. So we believe that that second OHA lawsuit against us, saying it's unconstitutional, it does not have any validity. So that, in short answer to your 2017, that 2017 lawsuit is still pending, but when it's going to go to trial is unclear because they don't have a lawyer right now.
Aloha, Chelsea Dixon from Waimea. My question is, would you please explain the county's role or responsibility in MKSOA?
Aloha kako. So yeah, so how I see my role representing the county, that means everybody. So I just see myself actually as just one more perspective, like everybody else. All our votes equal. So I'm a voting member. And so I got voted in by the people, majority of you folks. And so I feel like I gotta represent majority of your voices. And so that's how I would say that's my role. Mahalo.
Aloha, Mominu Ohiwa. I'd like to know what the challenges and the benefits of being on the National Historic Registry are and how MKSOA is gonna approach that.
A hard question they give to me. It's not clear how the designation was not filed by us. The designation was filed by an organization called CAHEL. And we have been informed by our lawyers that what I was afraid of and what we got clarification from our lawyers is that, does this put another layer? If we intend to be the stewards and the people ultimately responsible for the usage on Mauna Kea, I was afraid that that would add another layer of bureaucracy, either the federal government or somebody else, that would say, oh no, MKSOA, you guys are here, but we trump you because we are the, well, I don't mean trump you, Trump. We override you because we are the federal government. I try not to use that word anymore, but we try to override you because we're the federal. We were told that it has no legal, regulatory powers over us just by designating. So we accept and we respect that it is a treasure, and that's where we start from anyway, but it should not impact our ability as a group to determine what is appropriate usage and utilization of Mauna Kea.
We have time for, I think, 2 to 3 more questions.
Aloha, Wendy Laros. My question is about the leases for the observatories. If you could explain the timeline, it's coming up and there might be decommissioning and how that might work, because the leases are now with the university and it will be transferred, but is there enough time, the urgency behind that?
We understand the urgency of the leases. So the leases, so everybody knows, expire in 2033, right? There's a master lease between, right now, DLNR, the university, and then the university between each of the observatories. What people don't understand, and part of Wendy's question, I think, is that to decommission a telescope takes about 5 to 7 years. So it takes a long time because you have to go through all these regulatory processes. So we understand that from the observatory standpoint, we have between now and 2033. But that doesn't help the observatories if we wait to 2033, because the observatories, in seeking additional grants and funding, need to assure their people or funders that they will be in existence past 2033. So what we're trying to do right now with this planning is to set this, we're still on the foundational level, and we have to understand what is the carrying, first of all, what is the carrying capacity of the Mauna as it relates to astronomy, which then gets into the issue of decommissioning, which, if any, telescopes were decommissioned, and that means that if we decommission so many telescopes, the remaining telescopes, we got to get into this discussion about the leases going forward. So we understand, and we're trying to go as quickly as we can, but I cannot give you a definitive timeline, but we understand the urgency that the observatories see and what we see also. And let me answer that one question that somebody asked about support of astronomy being a state policy. That is included in the statute, that language almost exactly. So the position of the authority was that the legislature determines state policy. And that's actually language out of the Legislation Act 255. There's actually language that says support of astronomy is a state policy. So we're not a body that can override the legislative determination. Now we can clarify it, and that's what we did by saying that it has to be balanced. But that's where that particular matter came up.
Thank you. We have time for one final question. I just wanted to point out to you on your handout, there are 3 QR codes for you to refer to and to dig into the Mauna Kea Working Group report, the actual statute and law that sets forth the legal requirements of this body, Act 255, and then the MKSOA website. So please do refer one final question from the audience, and please, if you have additional questions that you've not yet posed, please go ahead and write them on the chart paper. Anyone else? Ikino.
Aloha board, my name is Angelou Ramos. Since this is the first board to be established since the 80s, as someone has said, what was the overall reaction from the public and especially from the UH system? Since I'm assuming that they had control over the Mauna.
We have worked collaboratively with the University of Hawaii system as we have moved forward. I'm happy to report that I think that we're even on a more positive path with the new president. I've met 3 times with the new president of the university, and she has pledged her personal support to make sure that MKSOA is successful, and has asked that all of her people that report to her do what they can to assist us. So I feel very optimistic about our relationship with the university as we move forward.
Mahalo. So as we wrap up our time together, I just want to again mahalo each of you community members, esteemed community members of Waimea, of Kohala, Waho, and I see members from Kohala Loko as well. Perhaps there are members who've traveled as far as Kona and as Hilo. Thank you for what you do in our beloved communities. Thank you for uplifting the aspiration to care for Mauna Kea, Mauna Awa Kea. And so with that, I want to do a little bit of logistics before I turn it over to Chair Komeiji, and then a final closing panina protocol with Lanakila. There are delicious cookies. Please take home, share with your family, your kids, your mo'opuna, your neighbors' kids. And there are granolas and everything. I'll make sure we'll take it to the food pantry if there's anything left over, but please take home with you. And if you are so inclined to assist with putting back the tables and chairs, we know how to do that, Waimea. You do it so well. And so with that, I will turn it over to Chair Komeiji, and then to Lanakila. Mahalo piha ya oko pakahia pau, I ka hiki ana mai, ka noho pu ana I keia wahi o ala ohia, e ho'olana, e ho'omaikai, e aloha kuia Mauna Kea. Aloha.
So I would like to thank all of you for caring and coming out and spending your time. We're trying to create something, as you heard, something really different. I mean, we're creating a state agency which hasn't been created since the 80s. But there's no state agency, as Anthony Noinoi says, that has adopted values that we know of. We're trying to do something different by having these community meetings. And we will have, I said, this is our 4th community meeting. We intend to have additional community meetings. And specifically, so that people don't think that we're trying to avoid the issues, we will have a community meeting that talks specifically about astronomy and specifically about TMT. But what we're trying to do right now is to build a base, a foundation that allows us to proceed. And part of that foundation is to create a safe space where people can come together, have discussion, meet in small groups, express differing opinions without the fear of being bullied or being or somehow being threatened or whatever. Because as a community, not only TMT, not only astronomy, but we're getting too divisive. We in Hawaii talk about aloha and aloha spirit and reciprocity. We're going to have to figure out, are we as a people, as a community, are we big enough to deal with problems such as Mauna Kea? And how do we address it? Do we become like how they've become on the mainland, that we stand on the separate sides of the road and just yell at each other? Or are we, as we say we are, different in Hawaii? Well, we can sit down and we can agree to disagree, but we can do it in a respectful way and figure out a way to come together and move forward as a community. That's ultimately what we're trying to do. How do we do that? And all of you, by coming tonight and participating and sharing your mana'o, are helping us get there. So what we need you to do is to, when we have our next community meeting, let's double the amount of people, triple the amount of people, telling people why it's important for them to get involved, why it's important for them to express their opinions, and why it's important for us to express our opinions in a respectful way to each other. So again, thank you to the facilitators. This took a lot of work by a lot of people behind the scenes. Thanks to our authority members. Unlike a lot of, we're totally understaffed right now. So we have all of our authority members are working authority members. They don't just sit back and let the staff. They are on a daily basis doing stuff. The material that you saw helped produced by our authority members. Putting up the chairs and tables, put by authority members. Our authority members are doing the best they can to meet some of the concerns about timelines, et cetera. So I just wanted to acknowledge and thank everybody that's here, as well as the staff and others that have facilitated. We have volunteers that are helping us. So we're trying to go as fast as we can. We need your support. We need your ideas. And as a community, we'll get this solved. So thank you again and have a good night. And we appreciate again that all of you came out.
And let's po ay and pili lima. Just to support what Chair just said as well too, as we are trying to step forward and create this new future for how we want to malama and care for Mauna Kea, mahalo. For me, the mana of the Mauna is what is captured from the Mauna comes down and feeds life to the Aina. So the Mauna has been a flashpoint, but also an awakening. And how we stood on the Mauna, we held ourselves accountable to how we're going to stand. Everyone kind of knows my background. To go all the way from those stages to this point, to stand side by side with members of my community, whether I agree or not, but just be willing to kuka, have these conversations and go through that hard work. And so the best way I can close this is that beautiful mele that I remember from a kid, and we all have that. Hawaii aloha. To remember that this is, that's the air, that's the energy, that's the mana that we want to step forward with and keep that in our hearts always. So mahalo kako. You probably have a better pitch than me.
And community members, if you wish to talk to the board members, they're going to hang out here till just before 8 p.m. as we put away chairs and tables. Thank you so much. Grab your sandwich aisles, onolicious cookies, and other treats and share them with your family and your friends and your neighbors. Mahalo nui.